Welcome, surgeons, to my LinkedIn Live 5 things wrong with traditional fitness advice for surgeons and what to do about it. So, here's the problem there's a lack of solutions out there. And as far as content, advice, programs available that are applicable to a surgeon's lifestyle, most of the stuff that you're going to see out there doesn't take into consideration all the constraints that you have with your schedule, the demands of your schedule, everything that matters to you outside of your career, which is your family. I've worked with enough of you to know that the biggest priorities for you guys, your health, your fitness, your family, your career. And if it doesn't really have to do with any of those things, then you really don't mess with anything outside of that. And so my goal with this presentation is to give you something that's very tangible and applicable to your lifestyle that is actually realistic and from somebody who's worked with enough surgeons, consulted with enough surgeons to be able to be giving you advice that is actually tried and true with people like you. So who am I? I wrote the book, The Physician Vitality Playbook, that was the how-to on how to look, feel, and perform at your best in and out of the OR, despite the demanding schedule. And what I'm basically going to do today is give you like a condensed down version of some of the things that we apply in that book and some of the things that are not in that book that actually are more specific to the surgeons that I work with one-on-one. And I've trained and consulted with over 50 elite surgeons and high-performing physicians over the last decade. This presentation is inspired by countless conversations I've had over the years with surgeons. So we're looking at number one thing that's a problem with a lot of the fitness advice and nutrition advice, coaching that we see out there in the marketplace when it comes to surgeons. And the number one thing is there's a lack of customization workout programs, right? So you might be working with a coach that knows how to take care of your general goals. And what I mean by general goals is most people, when they engage in a fitness routine, they have the goal of, increasing energy, losing weight, improving body composition. Those would be like three of the top things that you'll see. So they can be good at those things in generally speaking, but it's one thing to understand how to achieve those things. Then it's one thing that a completely different thing to be able to coach somebody, specifically a surgeon, on how to accomplish those things and work within the limitations of not only their lifestyle, their schedule, but also taking into consideration the structural limitations as far as their physicality and morphology go, but also the movement abilities and limitations that they run into. And finally, looking at how to mitigate that stress from the OR, from all the wear and tear that you put on your body. You've got to have something that combats that. And what you're looking at right here on the right side of the screen is like an example of a post-op core and mobility routine I developed for one of my cardiovascular surgeons who said after a long day of operating, he felt a lot of discomfort in the anterior hip on both sides. And so I created this for him to do after a day of operating, and if he had time in between cases. And so having something like that, that just being a small sample size, this is like specific to core mobility work, but also your strength training that you're doing should be something that not only complements what you do in the or combats what you do in the OR, but complements it and helps you become more efficient with your movement in the OR. Your strength improves. You have carryover to the OR when you're operating. You become more efficient with your movement. You have less wear and tear on your body as a result, and you recover much faster from your surgeries. So if your coach is not, and it's kind of jumping the gun here, but here's your solutions for if you're running into that issue of not having that customization, you don't really feel like your workout routine is complementing your efforts and combating the stress that you place on your body in the OR. So if your coach isn't able to give you what you need point blank, you need to fire them. You need to find somebody who can help you. And if you're not going to have a coach and you're going to try to do this on your own, which I do not encourage you to do, but if you do choose to do that, then you need to create something that can be realistically executed each week. And if you take a look, the only resource that I know of that tailors this specifically to surgeons and physicians is my book, The Physician Vitality Playbook, where I literally teach you how to do that. Okay. Number 2, the nutrition recommendations are too time consuming and impractical. So there's a big emphasis on meal preparation and rigid guidelines throughout your day that you need to follow supposedly in order to get the results that you're looking for. The truth is, there's a lot of right ways that you can do this. And the right way is going to be something that works with your schedule, not against it. So your solutions for this, I highly encourage you to leverage your time and automate your nutrition. Okay, so we look at meal delivery services that can deliver you healthy meals that can help you stay on track. I highly encourage you. Most of the surgeons I work with, they end up eating breakfast alone and lunch on their own if they have lunch. Dinners are with family. So outsourcing those breakfast and lunch meals, do dinner with your family, and then if you have time at work to consume something quick, making sure that it's protein centric, meaning that the majority of the calories are coming from protein, and it's a quick snack that you can quickly consume before you have to get to your next case or your next patient. And if you need a resource to help you out with that, I have a free resource called the Surgeon's Automated Nutrition Plan. If you message me, send me a private message, I'll send you a free copy of that over so that you can have literally the guide on how to help you make that a regular occurrence and take all that stress away from trying to figure out what you're going to do with your nutrition and trying to remember to do things like meal prep and taking time away from your family and other things that you enjoy doing on the weekends, besides, standing in a kitchen for hours at a time, prepping your meals for the week. Number 3, workouts are too time consuming, right? If you go back to this whole concept of time, this is a big common theme. These coaches, these fitness influencers, they try and convince you that you need to be in the gym for a certain amount of time or you need more volume than you actually do, which again, in most cases requires more time. This is not true. We're going to touch on that in a second. But the big emphasis here is they don't focus on how to make it as time efficient for you as possible. They don't get your schedule, and that's a big problem. So your solution is, one, if you do have a coach and you're struggling with communicating with them that you need a different type of program, then just be very adamant with them that, look, I have 30 minutes 3 times a week to work out. I need a program that can get me these results that I'm looking for within that time frame. And if you can't deliver it, then I'm going to go find somebody that can. Option number 2, you can design your own time-efficient workout program if you choose to do that. Again, I'm shameless plug here. I have a document of a program, Lean and Strong in 20, maybe 20 minutes. If you need help with designing your own program, shoot me a message. I can shoot this resource over to you, and you can have up to a 3-day, 4-day-a-week program that you can get done in as little as 20 minutes. And the final solution is, I'm a huge fan of surgeons having their own home gym, because not only does it increase the likelihood that you make that more a part of your routine because you've got the gym right there at your house, so it eliminates the resistance of getting to the gym, but it also saves you a lot of time because now you no longer have to commute to the gym, to the gym. So let's say you go to the gym 3 times a week. Let's say that the gym is 20 minutes from your home. Well, that's that 30-minute workout that you were going to do, or even if it was longer, but let's just be generous, say it's 30 minutes, right? 3 times a week, that's 90 minutes. And then 20 minutes from your home, that's 20 minutes to the gym, 20 minutes back home. So that 30-minute workout actually isn't 30 minutes, it's 70, okay? So now you essentially saved 2 hours a week in commute time simply by having a gym at your home. And if you need help building out your home gym, message me. I can send you over my guide, The Ultimate Home Gym, on how to build the ultimate home gym. And that'll give you the layout of the equipment that you need to make that happen. And it's a lot less than you think. Number 4, no, nutrition coaching is too rigid. I briefly touched on this, but it doesn't fit your schedule, doesn't fit within the family dynamic. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. A lot of times I see intermittent fasting as something that's communicated of what can be helpful for losing weight, a helpful tool. And it absolutely is. However, when it's when I've had enough surgeons come to me and say that that's what their coach or their nutritionist recommended that they do to help with their weight loss efforts, and the time window that they give them means that they cut off that window before they have dinner with their family. Now they're sacrificing time and dinner with their family. Now, the majority of surgeons, they would still sit at the dinner table with their families, even if they were implementing intermittent fasting, but it still changes the dynamic. It's not the same as sitting there and enjoying a meal with your family and catching up with them and interacting with them. So I don't want this to affect the family dynamics. And then finally, nutrition feels more like a cult than it does nutrition, right? So you got carnivore, you got paleo, you got vegan, you got all these different styles of eating and ways that people commit to, helping them achieve their goals. The problem is they make it a part of their identity, especially if you see a coach or any influencer or whatever you want to call them online, and they have that as part of their bio. If that's in their bio, that's a major red flag, because I can guarantee you they don't have the capacity to be able to coach you outside of that box that they live in. So if you see that, run the other way. Now, with that said, if that fits your preferences and it works, make sure and you implement it. Make sure that you're getting proper supplementation and things of that nature, because a lot of these, diets, they'll be lacking in certain nutrients, or they might be lacking in certain macronutrients, specifically protein. So make sure that you are paired if you choose to go that route and you find somebody that fits your preferences. Make sure that you're supplementing with what you need to supplement with, in addition to whatever that baseline diet is. But it's something I would not recommend for the long haul. What goes unreported with a lot of these diets is how unsuccessful they are for the long haul. And then also what goes unreported is all the problems that come along with, limiting yourself to that particular eating style or nutrition plan. That doesn't really get talked about. There's actually groups online where you can see, for example, like with carnivore, where people actually feel really, really bad on that particular diet, among others. I'm not just picking on carnivore. That just, that's the first thing that pops in my head. But make sure that you're doing your research and you're feeling everybody out appropriately. So solutions. Focus on reality and don't get caught up in ideals, right? You got to look at what your schedule, what the demands of your lifestyle are, and find something that works with your schedule, with the demands of your lifestyle, not against it. Another big thing I'm a fan of, because it helps making your decision-making process easier. It results in less stress. But if you have principles or food rules to help guide you with your decision-making when it comes to your nutrition, that can make a massive difference. An example would be, I'll give you from my own life, is with pizza. I love pizza. Absolutely love it. My favorite, the thicker, the better. Sauce on top, Chicago deep dish. That's what I love. I will not. So the problem with pizza is I could easily overconsume it and eat it too frequently. My rule is I only eat it once every 6 to 8 weeks. And if I get it from a place that I truly love the pizza. And for me, I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Anthony's Gourmet Deep Dish with a Chicago style deep dish. Best Chicago pizza there is that I've had, even in the ones that I've had in Chicago. Close second would be Pequod's out of Chicago. Solid joint. But anyway, I digress. That's my rules for pizza. So I won't eat it unless it's from Anthony's, and it's once every 6 to 8 weeks. And that helps me stay on track. Okay. So that's just like a really quick version of a food rule that works for me. And I've had clients have their own food rules that works for them. It makes decision-making process easier. It's less stressful, and it helps you stay on track. One of the knocks that you'll hear about having food rules and principles like that is a lot of people will say that it can create this negative relationship with food and this negative psychology with food. I believe that to be true with some people, but the vast majority of people, this is a very effective means of using to help manage your life and your nutrition and meet your goals. The final thing, track your calories and your macros. Now, this is not something most people hear that and they're like, they feel like they're boxed in and they're restricted. And I get it. It can be intimidating at first if you've never done it. However, one of the biggest things that I notice with people when they first start doing this is they always report back, wow, I was not aware of how much food I was eating. So the number one thing is awareness. It helps create awareness. Most people, what they'll say to me, especially those that when they're struggling to lose weight, I don't know what's going on. I eat pretty healthy, but I'm not losing weight. And they're right. They do eat healthy foods, but they also are unaware of how much they're eating. And then they're also, the other thing that they report to me is how much food that's not beneficial to their goals that they're also consuming, or how they're mindlessly eating and they weren't aware of it. And that starts to stack up and add up over time. So this can be a very liberating practice to help you create awareness and then allow you to make adjustments over time so that you're getting, you're reaching your goals, right? And again, like, this isn't something that you have to do all the time. This isn't something that's a lifelong commitment. But again, if we're going to increase awareness and make progress, this is something that can be very effective. And once you get closer to reaching your goals, or you do reach your goal, then it's something that you could just come back to time when you need to. Maybe you fall off track. That's life. It happens. And you use it as a tool to get yourself back on track. And then you go about living your life. Okay. Number 5 mistake is the communication of majoring in the minors. Now, that's not what people will call it, but I'll give you an example. These are the things that can be beneficial, but they don't move needle much with your progress. So things like cold plunging, getting into the sauna, having morning routines, mindfulness, journaling, and things like that, all can be beneficial. But as far as like your goal of having more energy, losing unwanted body fat, putting on muscle, increasing your strength, alleviating chronic aches and pains, the thing that's going to leave you feeling the best and making the most progress is doing the basics, consistently working out and doing so week after week, month after month, year after year, getting better with your nutrition and eating healthier and eating less, okay, and eating more protein. And then finally, learning how to more effectively manage stress. And that means like controlling your external environment, controlling your internal environment, meaning like your conversations you have yourself, your response to stress, being more aware of that and having better ways of handling that stress. These are the things that you get better at, and then you continue to refine over time. That's what's really going to make the difference, not focusing on all of these different things that are, I don't want to call them fads, because again, they have value, but the overemphasis on these things and trying to communicate to you how impactful they are in your life, it's just simply not the thing that's going to move the needle the most with your progress. Okay. And in the end, when you start putting on, all this emphasis on these, majoring in the minors, feeling more stressed because you're unsuccessful at successfully implementing them, finding time to cold plunge or get to the sauna or whatever it is. And then you put the blame back on yourself, and you start to look at that as why you may not be making progress, when in reality, those are probably not things that you should have been focusing on in the first place. You should have just been focusing on the basics and getting better at the basics. And again, you can add these things to your life. Just make sure it's not something that you put too much emphasis on and get lost putting the emphasis on this instead of the basics. So I just said, solution, get consistent with the basics, improve it. Then as you improve them, continue to refine them over time. So thank you for taking the time to join me on this presentation. I greatly appreciate you guys. Comment, send it on this post, down below, to get copies of all the manuals I mentioned today to help you with your health and fitness journey. I'll send those all over to you for free to help you with your process and your journey so that you're making progress consistently over time. Now, if you're a surgeon who's working hard but not seeing the results you want, then DM me Surgeon Plan, and I'll personally reach out with a couple of questions and a video highlighting how my Surgeon Vitality Blueprint program works and see if we might be the right fit for you. Okay. Again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you soon.